Good morning, knitters. How are you? Welcome to Recreational Podcast. My name is Karen and I'm the hostess. I'm coming to you from the Outer Banks, North Carolina, where we are in month 35 of our travel. I had to stop and think there for a bit. In our RV. We started from South Florida, December 2019. Yes. I said 2019, and we've been traveling the United States since then. We have a 38, almost 39 foot motorhome that we live in. I used to say travel in, but we've been living in it for almost 3 years, and I'm here to show you my knitting and tell you a little bit about our adventures. In this episode, there's a giveaway. Those of you that submitted unpopular opinions will have a chance to win a prize, so stay tuned to the end for that. I want to welcome everybody that's new, and welcome back everybody that's hung in there with me so far. We're not fancy here. We live in an RV. That's how we live. So, welcome to our little piece of the world. If you like what you see here, I'd really appreciate if you could like, subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 750 subscribers, that I can give a pretty nice giveaway. And I've decided that I'm going to mail that worldwide. There will be some yarn involved. There will be some stitch markers involved. Never know. You'll never know what you'll get. You might even get some knitting needles. I have a lot of things that are pretty nice to give away. And I've decided that if we get up to 750, we will do that. So, let's get on to the knitting. What have I finished? Well, I haven't finished anything this week. This has been, I thought I was going to finish two things. I thought I was going to finish my Halloween socks, and I thought I was going to finish my anchor tee sweater shirt. That is the second one I've made in orange. Neither one of those got finished this week. Wednesday night, we were out for dinner, and coming down the steps of the restaurant, we had gotten rain, for like 3 or 4 days in a row prior to this. And there must have been just a little bit of a gully, for lack of a better word. At the end of the steps, it was dark, and I stepped down on my hip replacement side and messed up my knee. So I've kind of been doing less knitting since Wednesday because of that. But I have gotten a lot of things, I'm progressing on a lot of things. So let's get to it. My first work in progress is my summer anchor sweater tee. I noticed that on Ravelry this week, she's got the same pattern named two different things. One is a summer shirt and one is a summer tee. I don't know if they're the same pattern or not. This is what I've gotten so far. I just started the ribbing, and by just, I think I've put on 2 rows. Here is where I was last week. Let's see if I can. This new camera is not user-friendly in many ways, but that's where I was last week. So I have made a lot of progress on it. I had wanted to have the body finished and at least one sleeve done by today, but unless I really get going. This is made with Barocco Remix light. I'll let you look at it. It's rather tweedy looking. It's got 27% cotton. I'm going to have to use the cheat sheet. This is what the ball band looks like. Remix light. And we have 30% nylon, 27% cotton, 24% acrylic, 10% silk, and 9% linen. I made the same sweater in like a peacock color, and I've worn that probably 6-8 times, and I have never been hot in it, and I'm rather surprised because I'm one to I can't wear acrylic well. If it's 100% acrylic, it just makes me sweaty. So I guess there's enough natural fibers in here to give it some breathability. But I really like this. This is classified as a 3 light. And I would agree with that. It's maybe even a little less than that. In some places, it's kind of, I don't know whether you can see this well. It's got little tiny bumps. Not like, you know, big bumps, but it's thin and thinner in some places. But anyway, and I am using, let's see what I'm using, if I can see. These are size 6s, and I will be taking these off after these 2 rows and using 4s on the ribbing. So that's my first work in progress. I think I've made, you know, good progress on that. And then I'll show you my Halloween socks, because I have been working on them. Kept in my Kitchener Stitch bag. There's the doggies. Hi, welcome back to a different place. Husband came home and kicked me out. He's got to watch college football, so you know, it's all about that. I think I was telling you that I had not gotten my Halloween socks done. As you know, I'm using the Twizzler pattern. There's the first one. And I have made some progress on the second one. The ball of yarn is smaller. I was here the last time I recorded, and I got the heel turned, and now I'm decreasing to go into the foot. I'd really had hoped that I would have gotten this one done. However, life happens. And that is the Twizzler socks. Let me show you the picture of the pattern. Well, it would be great if I could find it. And it's by Tangled Becca. I think this is a paid-for pattern. I'm not certain. I really do like this pattern. I think it'd be great for, obviously it's great for self-striping, but I think it'd be great. And that's what it looks like. Hopefully you can see the pattern there. But these are very close to being identical. Very close. So, hopefully I can get these done by Monday. We'll see. I don't have a table in front of me, so if I'm a little wobbly, I apologize. That's how it is. Okay, I'm back. Last time I didn't show you my sweater that I'm making. This is my go-to pattern that's based on the Trescale pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I think the last time, I haven't even knit on this week, so think of this as last week's podcast. This is BioBalance yarn. It's 50-50 wool in the lilac color. And I've gotten this far since the last time 2 weeks ago, since you've seen it. The color is coming out blue, but it's really a lovely lilac. I don't know whether you can see that better or not. Yeah, that's pretty. It's got a bit of a, I guess the cotton doesn't take the dye as the wool does. And I have plenty of this left. Even have another ball of it in here. So, plenty left. Does look like a denim blue, but it's a lovely lilac. It's the lovely lighting in here. But hey, college football, right? Yeah. This is my go-to pattern for those of you who are new here. This is my comfort knitting, and I would have probably gotten a lot done on this, but I really wanted to try to get my anchor, the orange sweater, together and off the needles. So of course I can start another one, you know, that gives me permission to do so. But I have a feeling this next week I'll probably be knitting on that a lot. And that's living in my Harrisville design sack. Those of you that don't know Harrisville Designs, it's a mill in New Hampshire that we actually visited the retail store back in the summer. The one week of the year that they stop milling and clean all the machines and there's no tours at the mill. Yeah, I'm a good planner too, aren't I? Yeah. Anyway, what else am I working on? You will be shocked to death. You know that old saying, three's a charm? Here it is. I found this one morning. My ranunculus. It's made with Volmise yarn, DK weight. Don't know what the color is. I don't know what that spot is there. Let me turn on this little light here. Let me see if that makes any difference. Not really. There may be 1 or 2 mistakes here, or 7. But I'm going to go with it. And I've split for the sleeves. And this will be priority knitting soon. When I finish the ankle. Max, it's okay, buddy. It's all right. We're real professionals here. Max saw someone out of the RV window, and he thinks he's going to be killed. Last week I showed you some yarn haul from Yarn Addiction in Nag's Head, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina on the Outer Banks, and it was all my favorite colors. Let's see if we can switch that, get a better light. I am very sorry about the quality of this podcast. Go back and see another one. This is really bad. I get it. I started a sock. I prefer toe up, particularly with shorties. This is some Kabasa yarn. Let's see if I still have the ball band. I do. It's by Haiku. It's the color Seattle Sound, which Seattle is lovely in the summer, not so much in the winter. And I only say that because I have seasonal affective disorder. And in the winter, in October, I start finding myself sliding downhill. So I'm sure if you like dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a great place to be. It's a fun city, nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's all about light for me. So anyway, I cast that on. My ranunculus is being worked on, and I think that's all I have to show you, with the exception of one thing that I want to pull out that I brought on this trip and haven't touched. My first love was stitching. Back in 2010, I was working in the public schools in Baltimore County, and I had just left my job as a supervisor. You know, the much loved Max. The much loved supervisory position that, you know, everybody seems to think they want until they work with big people. I actually liked it. Just realized that it was probably bad for my blood pressure. So I went back to the classroom. I worked as a speech pathologist in an elementary school on the east side of Baltimore, and got a horrible case of pink eye. Well, pink eye to me, you say the word pink eye and I will get it. I've gotten it over, I probably have gotten it 20 times over the course of working in public schools with kids. And, you know, call my optometrist, he'll give me the little drops, pick them up at the pharmacy, 3 days, good to go. Not this time. This time I was, the whole side of my face was swollen. I didn't know there was such a thing as viral pink eye. Bacterial is what I always had, I guess. Didn't know that at the time, but there's a big thing, viral pink eye. And I ended up being followed by Wilmer Eye Institute of the Johns Hopkins University or Hospital in Baltimore, and lost some vision. And as a result, I could no longer do my first love of stitching. Those of you that have tried to contact me, excuse me, via my email, it's samplergal.1@gmail. Samplergal is what I did. I did samplers. And I did a lot of different samplers, reproduction samplers, but I also did Quaker samplers. And this is one. I don't know whether you can really see this well, but this is one that was almost finished. This is done on 32 count linen with one strand of silk floss. And as you can see, there's one corner that needs to be finished. And my goal on this trip was to finish this, because I have to take off my glasses and get up very close to the fabric, and it's extremely difficult to do. I've had to give away all my sampler and stitching stuff except for this one bag. So that being said, I'm going to try to finish this by Christmas. So that's another work in progress that I'm going to be working on. And I can only do that about 10-15 minutes at a time. So keep me honest here, ladies and gentlemen. Going to finish it. Okay, acquisitions. I got the best book. If you like hats and want to make hats and live in the United States and love nature and the national parks, I'm going to recommend this book highly. This is Knitting the National Parks. There's 63 designs in here, and it's by Nancy Bates, which is very funny because I used to work with a nurse in one of my schools. Nancy Bates, not the same person. But this has some amazing hat patterns. This is Acadia National Park. I've pulled out a couple here. This is Biscayne National Park. Biscayne is in Florida. Acadia is in Maine. I've been to both. There's many in here that I have not been to. Glacier, which was one of my favorite parks. Glacier has the Road to the Sun. It's a great park in Montana. This is the Grand Teton hat. It's beautiful. Look at that. This is another beautiful park, Rocky Mountain. This is the picture she used as inspiration. These designs are also off her website. You can buy them as kits or patterns if you only like one. I always go to the nth degree and get the Crater Lake, which we never got to. It was closed because of COVID. Looks like she's got some rabbit ears on there because of the lighting. I apologize. I just really like the simple trees of that one. There's only a couple more I'll show you, but this is Olympic, which is in Washington State. Lovely. And that's really what the park looks like. It's a rainforest. There's also mountain peaks with snow on them. It's quite... If I had to pick, again, my top 5, that would be one of them because it's so diverse. This is another one that I would love to make. Obviously, I've not been to Alaska. This is Gates of the Arctic. Isn't that a beautiful pattern? And the last one that I will show you is probably one I'll never get to, but isn't it beautiful? And this is from Alaska as well. This is the Keniga Fjords. Beautiful. Beautiful texture, beautiful colors. And one last thing that I'll show you. She has a whole page and on her Instagram account, Beanies in the Wild, where people actually are wearing these beanies to the national parks. As I said, this is on her website, as well as the kits, which the last I looked, she was really kind of low on most of them. So that tells me that this is popular right now. And her patterns are on there as well. So if you just want to, you know, look and find a beanie that you've been to a national park, or you're planning to go to one of the national parks next summer, or, you know, you can take a look and see what you like. But I will say that there's really only one or two that are like, eh. So $63, it's a good deal. I think I paid, it says $35 on the back of the book. I don't know that I paid $35. I think I paid $29. I'm not sure. I have a couple new acquisitions. It's always fun. This is from a seller on Etsy, and I thought I kept her card. Oh yes, this is baked taters. Pardon the crinkly wrinklies, but we all like the crinkly wrinklies if it's our stuff, right? This is a little sock bag. Is that not the cutest? Look at the little farm animals. My grandfather had a farm. Look at the pig. I love pigs. I love pigs. I love sheep. Look at the little sheep sitting there. Silly, silly, silly. Headstands. This is called the Yoga Farm Animals bag. It's got a little clip. Great for socks, or, you know, cow or scarf even. Probably would hold 2 skeins pretty easily. I got that off of Etsy, and her name is Baked Taters. I don't know what else she has in her shop at this point, but I saw this and said, okay, that's mine. I must have. Yay! Then I found another little yarn shop, which you'll be touring today, I think. Yeah, I think that's what goes at the end of this. And it's here in Nag's Head, and I got a couple things there. This is Coast to Coast yarn, which I had never heard of. It's dyed in Kansas. Didn't see it while I was in Kansas. But it's BFL tweed, and it's sock, and it's called Nowhere to Be, which I thought that was pretty appropriate for what we do. Nowhere to be. But isn't that beautiful? Look at those specks. I have no idea what I'll use this for. But, you know, it's a whole different hobby, collecting yarn. And this is another camp fiber yarn, which I had never heard of. And this is an 80/20, and it's called One of a Kind. Smoky blues, little specks of black, green, some purples, a pink now and then. Those of you that dye, I envy you so much. This must be so fun watching what comes out of the little speckles that you put in there. But isn't that lovely? And again, that's Camp Fiber Yarns. I had never heard of it, but needed it. And then the last, but not least, is the Ba Yarn La Jolla. And this is in their Outer Banks color. I hope you can see that. It's got some beautiful pinks and blues and yellows. And this is really what the Outer Banks, the colors that you see. She nailed it. It's amazing. So I got 3 of those, and those are going to make a summer top for me. I got one balled up while I was there, so I'm going to start something lovely soon. And that's the end of my acquisitions. Now, hold on while I get my little notebook here. Yarn is the glue that is holding this shit show together. P.S. I'm going to need more yarn. Send more yarn. The prompt was that if you wanted to be entered into the giveaway, which is a Ravelry pattern up to $8, that you need to give me an unpopular knitting opinion of yours. So, Vegas Golden Knits said toe-up socks are the best. I have to agree. They really are. I don't think that's an unpopular position. I think it's just, I think it's probably 50-50. I can do it either way. I'm waiting for the one that they start heel out and go up. Yeah, that ought to be good. And Vegas Golden Knits, she actually likes to gauge swatch. What's that about? Gauge swatching? What? Please tell me what that is. I do it sometimes for sweaters, but I really don't otherwise. Danielle likes to purl. Well, good for you. I've got something I'm going to send to you then. She also likes to weave in ends. No, I prefer to have one big cone of yarn, so I never have to weave in but 2 ends. But that just doesn't happen. C Vines 972 also likes to purl. What's that about? And she likes top-down socks on a 9-inch needle. I've heard a lot of people liking those 9-inch needles. I need to try those sometimes. I'm a magic looper. I started out with DPNs because I didn't know how to magic loop. Sorry, my leg. I had to switch my leg there and move the camera. This is probably a real shit show. Sorry. Dorothy thinks that crank yarn is cheating when you're trying to knit socks. I tend to agree with her. I'm not adverse to a crank sock though. I'll tell whoever that all I did was the heel, the toe, and the cuff. You know, I'm good with that. Because I have way too much sock yarn. I'm thinking of doing that after Christmas. Anybody do crank knitting? I know that Aquila on Lefty Knitter podcast does. I'm gonna have to look for her and see what she charges. I might have 3 or 4 skeins of yarn that might have to go that direction. Janet loves to knit socks top down on DPNs. Really? Really? No. If you're going to do DPNs, it must be toe up. unless you're Janet. Elizabeth thinks that knitting fast is just not all that. Changing styles to gain more stitches, it just really isn't about that. And I have to agree with her. One of my goals when we set out on this trip was, while Luke drove, I was going to sit and teach myself to continental knit. I did. I was able to get the knit really very quickly. I did a lot of dishcloths, all how you learn to knit kind of things. And it was, okay. I liked the knitting part. The purling wasn't fast for me. But as I've gotten more into this trip, I've discovered that, knitting things fast, there's probably a place for that, but just to knit fast, probably isn't the direction that I want to go in. I have found that knitting, my sweater that I like to knit, knit. That's what I love. It's just to knit. Just sit there and knit, work my hands, think about things, watch TV, whatever it is that you do. Enjoy nature while you're knitting. I tend to agree with that. Slow knitting isn't all that bad. Melanie, if knitting doesn't bring you peace, frog it. And I'm kind of that way too. I've got a scarf that's about half finished and I'm really not liking it. I don't like the yarn. I don't like any of it. So I'll probably frog it and donate it to Goodwill. Somebody else can find some joy in it. Yvette says the rocket t-shirt was not enjoyable. Oh yeah. Mine was because of two lace weight yarns that I had to put together. I think that if I use fingering, I might enjoy it better. And I am going to give it another shot. I really am. Mimi says she likes some big box yarn, which she thinks is unpopular. I think we've all used big box yarn for whatever reasons. Baby blankets, hats, kids wear, whatever. Learning to knit. I used it when I did a yarn club, knitting club, whatever it was, during lunchtime at one of my elementary schools, about 10 years ago. And, the kids loved it. And it has its place. So I think that, big box yarns are okay, and especially if that's your price point. I would love to knit exclusively with things with cashmere in them. But number one, some of those things knitted in cashmere are not practical, socks and the like. But it's also way out of my price point. I have one or two skeins that I'm going to be putting into some kind of a shawl eventually. Just haven't picked the pattern yet. Vicky is a monogamous knitter. What in the world? What is that? What's that mean, Vicky? She only has leftovers in her stash. I don't know what this is. Really? Anybody else like that? I think I have the two hobby syndrome. Having yarn, buying yarn, squishing yarn, and then knitting with it. Two separate hobbies. Vicky doesn't like to squish, sniff, buy, hold, any of the things until she's ready to knit it, which really is admirable, really. Such self-control. I bet Vicky's skinny too, right? Yeah. Okay. And Karen, another different Karen, thinks it's okay to use acrylic. And so do I. My remix has a bunch of nylon and stuff in it that it's okay. It's fine. Acrylic, it has its place. I happen to not like sweaters made entirely of acrylic, and this was before I knit sweaters. I'd go to, you know, Macy's or whatever, look for sweaters, and I'd look, if it was acrylic, 100% acrylic, I'd put it back. I'm really a cotton weight kind of gal, always have been. It's okay to have some wool sweaters as well if you live in a cooler climate, obviously. But I was working at the time in buildings, school buildings, that I'd go in and out of. Some would be cold, some would be hot. And I hate being hot, I'd rather be cold. So, acrylic just wasn't my friend. So, and I probably was also in that stage of life, that is wonderful with hot flashes. Yeah. If you haven't gotten there, or, I'm sorry. And if you've gotten over it. Rosanna says that the tubular bind off and the cast on are just a waste of time. She's been using her regular old cast ons and they're good enough for her. I tend to agree with you. I spent probably an hour of good knitting time trying to figure out, I don't know whether it was a tubular or not, the cast on. It was kind of crazy and I didn't like the way it looked, so I ripped it out and went back to my long-tailed Norwegian, German, Finnish, whatever it is. Yeah, so. And Susan with a Z, she says she hates knitting socks, and that's all right. We still love you. Patsy hates intarsia, and I'm with her. I don't think that's unpopular. I think it's a lovely look. It should be simpler than it is. I don't get it. Celeste thinks that super bulky yarn should just definitely not exist. There's some that I would tend to agree with you, that I don't know what it's called, but you can buy it at Walmart or Michael's or Joann's, and it's thick and thin and thick and thin, and I think it's chenille. I'm sure there's a use for it. I'm sure that some child out there has a wonderful blankie that they carry everywhere that's made of that stuff. Not me. Handmade Designs says that knitting blankets look good. I think so too. I like quilts, I like crocheted, and I like knitted blankets. I think they're all look great. Lisa suggests that you're not going to get tangled yarns when you do color work if you just hold one color in one hand and one color in the other. Very simple. Except that this only holds my ring and my watch. This really has no function. I don't know what I would do if I had to change hands. I can barely write like the number 1 with my left hand. So those of us that are challenged that way, it's a little more difficult. Valerie, a woman after my own heart, leaving mistakes in makes the design more attractive, and I tend to agree with her. It's our own design. Karen Knits Podcast says there's a place for Red Heart Super Saver, and I would agree. I tend to think that there's a lot of knitters out there that love it, and it's great for particularly baby and children's items. As again, I tend to stay away from my own garments in acrylic because it makes me hot. But if you're looking for something that is washable, it's a great thing to do. I'm going to pronounce this name incorrectly, and I apologize. Andavita, if used correctly, different weights and textures of yarn in one project can be stunning, and I agree with her. I've seen that used in a variety of ways, and it really is nice. Sarah Loves Donuts says that less judging our own stuff and others is really pretty healthy, and I would agree with her there. Soxy Nana Alice, an unpopular opinion of hers is that knitting is for old ladies. No kidding. How many 20-year-olds do you see out there knitting? I see a lot of kids, I call them kids, young people knitting. My roommate from college and I got together in Cleveland when we were passing through. And I told her that I had started this knitting podcast. And she says, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so old." You're not old. Not a knitter. Okay, so yeah, knit away. And those of you in Europe, you know, you started at itty bitty ages and you're all about the knitting. And what about men? Come on, Martin Story is one of the best designers out there. Come on, Max Sear, come on. Just not for old ladies. Rachel King, she loves complicated patterns. She must be a great knitter. I have found out during this trip that I'm all about knitting, not reading patterns. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's, I don't know, but I just like the process of knitting. Stephanie, again, says knitting with acrylic makes that person less than. She says that's really wrong to think that. I agree. As a college student, I remember knitting a scarf for that roommate that I was talking about. And we had a Ben Franklin in our little college town. I think there's like 2 Ben Franklins left in the United States. But anyway, at that time, they had a pretty large yarn department. And my roommate Swellen got an acrylic, probably not knitted very well, scarf for Christmas that year. And finally, Linda C. feels that an unpopular position is always knit socks cuff down, never toe up. And that is unpopular in my book. It's okay. We all do everything that makes us happy, I hope. I hope that you're not stuck in a project right now that you're not happy with. And I hope that knitting only brings you peace, because that's what it's for, I think. You'll be seeing a small tour of a small knitting shop here on the Outer Banks. Tomorrow we head out towards Raleigh, North Carolina, which is about 3 hours from here, and we will continue on our trip. Until next week, knit happy, knit in peace. And the winner is Soxy Nana Alice. Yay, Soxy Nana! Contact me at my email or through Ravelry. I'm Sampler Gal there. And let me know what you'd like and I'll send it right off to you. Thanks for playing, everybody. Again, do all the like, subscribe, comment below. Let's get a community going. I'm going to have another giveaway. I'm going to pick next podcast, so you have about a week to get it in. I want you to comment below what your favorite pattern Doesn't matter what it is, socks, shawl, cow, hat, doesn't matter. What your favorite pattern has been that you've ever knitted, put it in the comments below.